Well, good morning, you guys. This is Crystal here from Homemaking on the Homestead, and today my project is to make some soap. I make homemade soap. I've been making it for years and years. I've done a few videos already on it, but it was my project for the day, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take you guys along with me. I've had a lot more subscribers since the last time that I made a soap making video. So I thought, well, I'll show you all again how I make soap. I love making soap. It is very easy to do. Once you get an understanding of the basics and you have a few specific things that you need for it, I think the thing that probably makes people the most nervous about making homemade soap is the lye, and I totally understand that. So I'm going to show you how simple that really is. You just have to take a few safety precautions like wearing gloves and making sure you maybe have a fan running while you mix your lye and water together. But otherwise, it is a super simple process. I am going to be making soap in my crock pot, and they call that hot process soap. So that simplifies the process even more. I'm going to show you real quick what you're going to need and the type of soap that I am making. So obviously the first thing you need is a crock pot to make crock pot soap. This crock pot is so old. It's probably 30 years old, I would imagine. 25, 30 years old. It was one of my original crock pots. And so it is my dedicated soap making crock pot. I know a lot of people will buy them in the thrift stores and things like that. So you still can use your own crock pot because once you're done, you have soap. So you can clean it well when you're done. But and I've done that many times. But I prefer to be able to have something that's dedicated for soap making. So if this is something you want to do and you don't want to use your own, check out thrift stores, check out garage sales, whatever it is. So right now I am going to take this and plug it in and turn it on low so it can get hot as I finish sharing the rest on this video. For my oils, I am using coconut oil and olive oil, and for this recipe I'm adding a little shea butter in. I have a recipe that is just coconut oil and olive oil, so if you would rather have that, I will make sure I link that video below, which you can find that recipe. I bought this shea butter off of Amazon. You do not need fancy oil for this. This is just cheap, they say for popcorn or whatever, but it's 100% coconut oil. It's been refined and all that stuff. But it works just fine for soap. You're not eating this, so as far as health benefits, there is no benefit to getting more expensive oil for soap making. I buy my olive oil at Costco because you can have grade B olive oil. Again, you don't need the good stuff, but I've looked at grade B and I can still get it at Costco less expensive than that. So that's what I use. And this makes an incredibly moisturizing, wonderful soap for your skin. And of course, the other thing you need to make soap is lye. And I buy this off of Amazon as well. And this will last you for several batches of soap. You also need some sort of fragrance oil if you want it scented. You could leave it unscented. I am using some oatmeal milk and honey. Wherever you buy fragrance oils, Amazon I'm sure has some. I used to make and sell soap, so I would buy it from a company called Majestic Mountain Sage. And I would buy big bottles like this because I made a lot of soap. But you only need a couple ounces for this recipe, so, a small bottle would work too. When you make soap, everything has to be weighed. I bought this little scale at Amazon for 10 bucks, and so it will do the job just perfect. But you cannot use cups. Don't use cups and that type of measurements. You need to weigh everything out specifically. A stick blender is very, very helpful. It speeds up the process. You can stir it by hand, but you will literally be stirring for, an hour to get it to the point that you need to be able to then move on to the next step. So this again is a dedicated stick blender, and they're inexpensive. So, you can find them cheap ones at Walmart or Amazon or wherever, garage sale, thrift store. These are my soap molds. They are silicone soap molds. They work great for popping the soap out. I will leave links to those below. You could just put all your soap in a big cardboard box if you wanted, or line a couple shoe boxes with like plastic wrap or something like that. If you don't use silicone, you need something lined to line it in order to be able to pull the soap out easily. You can use a 9x13 pan. You could use 11x15. This will fill both of these, so it's called a 4-pound batch of soap. So you need to have enough containers. You could do muffin pans, like silicone muffin pans, and then you've got little round bars of soap. So whatever you want for molds, it's pretty simple. If you've never made soap before, I would honestly recommend the cardboard box and line it. I would open up a bag, like a clean garbage bag, and just line it with that. Works perfect. Okay, now that you know what you need to make soap, I am going to start. And the first thing I am going to do is measure out my coconut oil, my shea butter, and I'm going to put those into my crock pot over here and wait until they have melted. In the meantime, I will go ahead and measure out my olive oil and my fragrance oil. Now we're going to measure out the lye, so you have to do it very carefully. You want to wear gloves. So put some gloves on and we will measure out the lye. And now I'm just going to set this aside and measure out my water. While we wait for our solid oils to get liquefied and heated up, everything else just sits and waits. Now that my oils are melted, I am going to go ahead and add the olive oil to that, put the lid back on, and let that kind of get hot while we mix up the lye. Make sure you're wearing gloves. Do it slowly. Always mix the lye into the water. Never do it the other way around. Otherwise, it'll kind of erupt as a big volcanic mess. So, and make sure you have a fan running or windows open so things are ventilated, because it will give off quite a strong odor. Now we're going to just stir this until the lye is clear instead of kind of this milky white look that it has, and it will get very hot. Now that my lye is pretty much clear, I am going to add it to the oils. I add the lye in water and give it a little stir, and now is when you're going to need your stick blender. Now it's started to get pretty thick, like gravy or pudding. And the next step is to put the lid on and just let it cook for a little bit. We're going to let it go for about 15-20 minutes and then we'll check it. As you can see, after 10 minutes, it's gotten much thicker. We're going to put the lid back on and let it keep cooking. You need to check it every 10 to 15 minutes. You don't want it to overflow out of the crock pot, which it can do, and you just want to keep tabs on it. So you have to monitor it and stir about every 10 to 15 minutes. As you can see, it's getting higher up in the crock pot, which is why it can easily overflow, and you need to keep an eye on it and check it. But now we have kind of reached a stage where it resembles a kind of mashed potato look. And so once again, we're going to stir this real good, put the lid back on, and keep letting it cook. As you can see, it was climbing up out of the pan. So now it kind of has the consistency of applesauce. And so it's not done yet. We're going to keep on cooking, but we're getting close. It has been about 1 hour since I started, since I mixed the lye in with the oil, and we are almost done. It kind of starts getting these waxy, Vaseline-looking streaks through it as you stir it. Oh, and by the way, my crock pot has been on low the whole time. So that is what you cook your soap on, is a low setting on your crock pot. At this point, the soap is done. And it all has kind of a waxy look to it. You just kind of have to go by the way it looks. But it kind of has a look of, like I said before, like a Vaseline, like when you open a container of Vaseline. That's what it reminds me of when I see that. So I'm going to stir this real good, and then we are going to remove it from the base and move on to the next step. It's time to turn the crock pot off and remove it from the base. And I'm going to add my scent oil. Very important to make sure that the scent oil gets well mixed and well integrated into the soap. Otherwise you might end up with pockets of oil, and you don't want that to happen. So just keep stirring until everything's well combined. And now it is time to fill up the soap mold. And you just basically plop it in there. And we will divide this big batch of soap between both of these containers. Homemade soap makes great gifts. I just love giving it away, especially at Christmas time. I usually always try to make sure that family and friends get some soap. Throughout the year, when I'm visiting my kids or anything like that, I will always take them soap as a gift. And I just kind of smooth it around to make sure that it gets to the corners. And you do need to work somewhat quickly because as it cools down it will harden up. I'll also use a spatula to kind of smooth it out and again tuck it into the corners well. The other thing I do is to tap the molds on the table so that the soap will kind of just settle down. I don't want any air pockets if possible in my bars. And the other thing I do is take a bit of saran wrap and just use that to kind of make a smooth surface on the top. And it's because the soap is still hot, so that also I don't need to be touching it directly, but this will make it look a lot smoother. There we go. These are going to sit in the mold for probably a couple days, and I will make sure that they've hardened up a good deal, and then I will cut them. Now it is time to unmold the soap. It's actually been several days, 4 or 5 days. I just had a lot going on. So we're going to take this out of the mold. It is super easy to do with these silicone molds. That's why I love them so much. And then I'm going to be cutting them. And the bars are still a little bit soft. I kind of smushed one in here a little bit as I was taking the mold off. That is okay because after we slice them up, we're going to just set them out on this tray that I have and just let them sit for a couple weeks and get nice and hard. A hard bar of soap will last a whole lot longer than a soft bar. To cut these bars, I am using this soap cutter, but you don't have to have a soap cutter. You can just use a knife. And this one has kind of a rigid little ripples on the edge, which makes the bars kind of look pretty. So I like that. But like I said, you can just use a knife. I ended up with 22 bars of soap. Okay, you guys, there you have it, how to make homemade soap. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and if you have any questions, you can certainly ask me below in the comments. Also, I will be listing in the description box my other videos so that you can go and check out those. I have several videos showing you how to make soap step by step, maybe giving you more information along the way too. But I hope you enjoyed coming along with me for this soap making adventure. Alright, you guys, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you like my content, would you consider subscribing? I would really appreciate that. Alright, you guys, I'll see you on my next video. Bye-bye.